right here and now. And we've been told that we have 11 years left to avoid even more devastating effects of climate change. 11 years for warming to be kept at a maximum of 1.5 degrees Celsius, beyond which we'll see worsened risks of drought, floods, extreme heat, and poverty for millions. And in the work I do, solutions often get framed in individualized terms. Reduce your carbon footprint, put solar panels on your house, switch out your gas guzzler for a hybrid or an all-electric Tesla. And that's all good if you can afford it. But what about the corporations and institutional actors which pollute at a much greater scale? And we know the damage that the fossil fuel companies have caused, but we often overlook the U.S. military's relationship to the climate crisis. The recently released Cost of War report from Brown University revealed that the Department of Defense is the world's largest institutional user of petroleum and correspondingly the single largest producer of greenhouse gases in the world. The Department of Defense uses 4.6 billion gallons of fuel annually and averages 12.6 million gallons of fuel per day. And if it were a country, the Department of Defense would rank 34th in the world in average daily oil use and would be the 55th largest emitter of carbon dioxide, with war making, of course, being its most carbon-intensive activity. But not only are its greenhouse gas emissions disproportionately fueling the climate crisis, but the U.S. military continues to leave environmental destruction and ecological devastation in its wake. With over 800 overseas bases around the world, the U.S. continues to circumvent environmental laws and takes no responsibility for the damage caused by the disposal, dumping, and use of hazardous toxic materials. In Iraq, for example, the U.S. continued to use toxic weapons, leading to higher rates of cancer and birth defects. And in a study of environmental impacts of war in Fallujah, sorry if I mispronounced that city's name, it caused what one doctor described as the highest rate of genetic damage in any population ever studied. And all of these wars continue to be justified by the need to preserve access to the region's oil preserves. We kill, die, and pollute in the name of preserving access to the resource most responsible for our climate chaos. But why am I making the climate connection in front of PNC Bank? Well, in addition to their investments in nuclear weapons, PNC has also been a major financer behind the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which is a project led by UKT, carrying fracked natural gas over 300 miles across West Virginia and Virginia. And Pennsylvanians are no strangers to pipelines, and we recognize that this infrastructure will only keep us locked into fossil fuels when we seem to be moving into a cleaner and greener future. PNC Bank is financing nuclear weapons and fossil fuels at a time when both climate change and nuclear war are existential threats to our lives on this planet. And some politicians have offered a green military as a solution to the climate crisis, but we don't need to see solar-powered tanks, nor do we need to see our military bases that are threatened by climate change rescued. What we need and demand is for banks to divest from these nuclear weapons industries. What we need and demand is for a reduction in our military budget, which is a whopping $716 billion this year. We cannot pursue anything like a Green New Deal if the U.S. military continues to gobble up our resources. And reducing the military budget at least by half is critical in terms of redirecting our funds to what folks in this country and folks around the world need most. And that's investing in housing, investing in healthcare, public education, infrastructure, sustainable economies, and just making sure that we have a planet to live on in the future.